What's up, guys? Chris here. Wanted to bring you guys a different video today. Got Mikey up there. That's one of my female canaries that is wanting to lay eggs. I am waiting on a male that will fertilize her eggs. Anyways, I've had so many comments and questions on what's the right cage for your bird? What cage size do I have? And so I thought, why not do a video on it? So in the video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you all the different cages that I have, what I would recommend for either one bird or a pair of birds to breed in, size of birds that should go in different cages, that sort of thing. Just try and cover a broad range of some of the more popular birds so that you can have an idea of what cage you need to get and what cage size is best. And granted, this is just my personal opinion from my experience. And so if you guys have something else that's working for you, that's cool. I'm not saying that this is the only way. This is just what I have and what I've worked with for the past several years. Excuse me. Sorry, my daughter's making some noise in here. She likes to come in the bird room with Dad. So we'll start off with my breeding cages. This is what I use to breed 90% of my birds. Now, I have some cockatiels and I have some rosy borks. You can see my hen, she's sticking out of the nest box right there. I probably would not breed them in these cages. They're too big. These cages are too small. What? Yeah, good job. And so, honestly, I have my parakeets in there right now, and if you guys just watched my recent video, you saw that I got some new parakeets and I put in there. I'm not planning to breed my parakeets in these cages, even though I probably could. Parakeets are probably the biggest bird that I would put in these, and this is just for a short term. I would not recommend a cage of this size for a bird for long term, okay? Even my smaller birds. If you can give the birds a bigger cage, always go with that option. My rule of thumb is for birds, the bigger the better. Doesn't matter the size of your bird. The bigger the better, okay? So, you know, birds fly around. They need lots of exercise. They need a lot of room. So don't just say that my bird, if someone else says you can breed a bird in a small cage like this, you make that their permanent home, because they're gonna get obese and become inactive. They'll probably stop singing, lots of things, okay? So I use these for breeding purposes. So my birds are in here, depending on how many clutches I have them raise, probably no more than 3 to 4 months. And then I set them outside in the aviary. So cage size. These breeding cages they're 2 feet tall. Sorry, 1.5 feet tall, 3 feet long, and 1.5 feet wide, okay? So they're not super big. So let me say that again. They're 1.5 feet tall, 3 feet long, and 1.5 feet wide, okay? And these cages are specifically designed to breed canaries. They have dividers in here, right? So you can see right here, I have a divider, and I have my male canary here, and I have another canary there. That's so that you can split it up and breed your canaries in the best maximum way, okay? So that's the breeding cages I have. All of them are the same. They're all the same. I bought these cages from an old breeder who was going out of business. He had lots of canaries. In fact, some of my mosaic canaries that I still have were from this breeder. And these cages are great for breeding birds. I love them. I would recommend them to anybody who's planning to breed birds in this type of way. They're great, okay? But they're not a great cage for a long-term bird, okay? And if they are, I would recommend you keep it open so that they have a little bit of room to fly back and forth. So the next cage I have my aviary, and we'll go outside and look at the aviary real quick. And the aviary extends inside the bird shed, right? So this one is a little bit smaller. You can see that this one extends out just a little bit more, okay? And sorry guys, we got lots of kids around tonight. that's how it goes. Ooh, sweet, what did we get? That's cool. Hey, Livy. No.
Dad, it says Chris.
Does it say me in it? Awesome. Got a gift in the mail. We'll always take that. Okay, so the inside of this aviary is 4 feet wide. Okay, so from here to there is 4 feet. The height is 7 feet to the point. My roof is slanted, and then down there is 6 feet. Okay. The depth, I believe, is 3.5 feet from the wall to this door is 3.5 feet. So this cage is similar, right? So 4 feet wide, 7 feet tall at the highest point, and then this one's only 2 feet. Or I think it's 2.5 feet is what it is, wide, okay? So that's the inside, but both sides, they're able to go outside into the aviary. So this is a good flying space for them. Even if I only had this part, that's pretty good. That's plenty of flying space for the birds. The one thing you have to be careful of is to not put too many birds in here. Most of my birds are all outside. You see I got a canary hen there. We've got Mikey and Lucy up there. We've got my female Rosie Bork. She's in there hanging out, okay? Most of them are outside. They're enjoying the sunset. But this is pretty good flying space. This cage is pretty good for 5 to 6 birds, depending on what you're putting in there. For cockatiels, I would say no more than a pair. Rosie Borks, you could maybe put 2 pairs. Canaries, a couple pairs, right? So you don't want to put a ton of birds in there, and you don't want to overstock. I think lots of times people, when they have a big area like this, they put 20 birds in this little space, and that's really crammed, right? And then your bird's health are going to start to suffer because it's going to be really dirty every day, and it's going to be hard to keep it clean. Your birds are going to start pecking at each other and fighting because there's not a whole lot of space for them to fly and be by themselves, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So let's go out, let's look at the aviary that's connected to these. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully that give you some good ideas. We'll come out here, we'll look at the aviary, and then I'll show you some old cages that I have, and I'll show you the uses that I have for them and the purposes. So if we come out here, I'll have to remember the measurements. So the width, and we'll come down here, maybe you guys can get a better view. And you can see we've got all the birds out here, they're enjoying it. They all have plenty of space. I mean, each bird has at least another bird width in between them or more, okay? So, and if they don't want to be outside, they can go inside to the indoor part and seek shelter. So we'll come right here, then you can kind of see corner to corner, right? So the inside is the same, right? So from my middle point to here is 4 feet wide, and over there is 4 feet wide. And then it's 10 feet long. So from here to the end of to the start of my shed is 10 feet. So they have an aviary flight of 4 feet wide by 10 feet long by 6 feet tall, okay? So, and then you duplicate that right there. So they've got a really good flying space. Like I said, bigger is always better. So if you have room to make a bigger aviary or a bigger cage, I would always try and give the birds that option. So now what we'll do is I'll show you some of the cages that I have that are smaller for indoor uses. Because before I had this, I kept a lot of my birds indoors, right? And in my house and in different types of cages for different types of birds. And so that's what we'll go over. We'll look at that, kind of give you the cage size dimensions, what I would recommend for some of those birds, and just give you guys some options. So whether you have birds inside your house or birds outside like me, you know, it'll give you some good options as to what you can have, what types of birds you can put in there, and the best way to keep them happy and healthy. So let's go in. I have all the cages. They're stored inside my garage because currently I'm not using them. So we'll go in, look at the cages. I'll show you the different types of cages that I have, different types of birds that I've had in there, and hopefully that'll help you guys out, give you some ideas of maybe the best cages to have and not. So if you look clear over there, side note, you got a blue jay sitting there at the top of the tree, or a bluebird. They come every year and they nest in that tree. And those babies are so loud. We can hear them squawking inside the house when they hatch. So, but really cool. This is the 4th year in a row that they've come back to this breeding site. Same pair. Pretty sweet. Wish I had a better camera to give you guys a better view. Beautiful birds. A nice blue bird here. Oh, and there he goes. Flew off. Okay, we'll take you in. Let's go show you some of the other birds. We'll let you enjoy these guys in the sun for a second before we come to these other cages. All right, guys. Sorry, I had to put the kids down to bed. It was getting late, and mom's at work, so had to get them all situated and get them down. So it is dark outside, so I wasn't able to finish recording out there. I was hoping to do this outside. I am in my garage, so there may be a little bit of an echo. If that's the case, I apologize. I just wanted to get this video finished for you guys and show you some of the other selections of cages that I have currently that I've either acquired when I've purchased birds or I've bought on my own. And I've actually trimmed down quite a bit. Before I had my bird room in the aviary, I had, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 of these cages and a couple different. They're the same style, but they were different sizes. I had a couple that were a little bit bigger, that divided in half, stuff like that, that I used when I kept my birds inside. Now, obviously, when I had birds inside, I didn't have as many birds as I have now because I just didn't have the space for them. And that's one thing I know I've already talked about at the beginning of this video. Don't try and cram as many birds as you can in these cages. These cages are good for 1 to 2 birds, really. You see, these are typical cages that you'll see at pet stores because they're a fairly cheap cage. And lots of times, many pet stores I've seen have anywhere from 10 to 20 birds in these small cages. And that's just too many. It stresses the birds out. And more times than not, those birds that you see in the pet store have a lot of feathers missing. They're fluffed up. They're just stressed out. They're not as healthy as they could be. So just wanted to go over these real quick, kind of give you guys an idea of some cages that you can use and some birds that you can put in there. The biggest cage I have here is down here is this green one. That's what my pair of parakeets came in. So when I bought the birds, they came with the cage. And it's actually a pretty decent cage size. It's probably about 2 feet tall, about 1.5 feet wide, and 2 feet long. So it's a decent little cage. It was a good size for the 2 parakeets. I wouldn't put anything more than that. You could really put a pair of finches in there, a pair of zebra finches, a pair of Golden finches, pair of parakeets, which kind of is pushing it. 1 canary would go in there great. So that's kind of the thing. And one thing you also have to realize is, even though this cage is good for a pair of birds, say they breed and they have 4 babies, then all of a sudden in 1 month, you went from 2 birds to 6 birds in that cage, and it becomes crowded really quick. So that's something you have to take into consideration. If you have babies, where are you going to put those babies once they're weaned? Do you have an extra cage that they can go into? Do you have people that are already lined up to buy them? That sort of thing. So, yeah, so these are a good sized cage to really put any pair. I have bred zebra finches, Golden finches, society finches, in these cages because these are what I did have when my birds were inside. And as far as price goes, they're pretty good price. They're fairly cheap cage, and it comes with, right now I have 2 food dishes, but it has openings for 2 more. So it fits 4 food dishes, and it also divides in half. The divider's up on my shelf, but if you guys can see, it's got the runners right there, so you can slide a cage in there and divide it in half. So hopefully gives you guys a good idea. This is similar dimensions as this one. It's just not as tall. So this one's a little bit taller than that one. But this one right here, you know, you're 2 feet wide, you're 1.5 feet deep and 1.5 feet wide or tall. So both those cages, really, any of your small finches, you could fit 1 to 2 finches in there comfortably. And they have little nets and skirts that go around the cages to help your birds not flip the seeds everywhere. One thing I really do like about this cage is the food dishes. They come with a cover on them, and that cover removes so you can clean it out and stuff like that. But that was really nice. That helped eliminate a lot of the seeds spreading around when the birds would fly. So that was good. So the next 2 cages I have, so this black one here and this white one, really is, you know, kind of a 1-bird cage, a small finch, maybe a parakeet. It'd still be pretty small for a canary. If this was a temporary housing, you could put that in for a temporary purpose until you get a bigger cage, something like that. So both of those cages, I really wouldn't put more than 1 bird in there. It's just too small. And you can see it's about half the size, half the length of that. So, and it's about the same height. So really 1 bird, nothing more than that. And all of these cages, I would not put anything bigger than a parakeet. If you have a cockatiel, if you have rosy bork parakeets, any type of conure, I mean, you're gonna need a bigger cage. Something that's a lot bigger, that has a stand that it goes on and some wheels, that sort of thing. I used to have one of those cages when we had a pineapple green cheek conure for several years, and we had a big cage like that. So if I still had that, I would show you, but we ended up selling the cage when we didn't have the bird anymore. So yeah, really anything larger than a parakeet, than a budgie-ear parakeet, you need a bigger cage than what we have here. Because I mainly focus on finches, these are the types of cages I have. So just keep in mind, anything parakeet size and small you can put in here. I would even throw like a lovebird in that cage. Lovebirds, 1 lovebird would be okay. I wouldn't put a pair in there. If you had a pair of lovebirds, I would get a bigger cage. So we have this cage here, which is just a little baby. And then we have this guy here. And the main purpose that I use those for are my travel cages. If I'm going somewhere to pick up a bird, or I'm taking a bird somewhere, if it's just a short distance, I'll put them in here. If it's a longer distance, I'll put them in that cage, put a towel over it, have some food and water in there for them. And that's really its only purpose. I would not ever house any birds in there for longer than a couple days if needed. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So just hopefully this helps you guys. Hopefully it gives you an idea of what types of cages work for your birds. I mostly talked about finches because that's what I specialize in. Like I mentioned before, if you have anything cockatiel size and up, you're gonna need something much bigger than these cages. These are designed for smaller finches, canaries, parakeets, that sort of thing. And really, some of these would only be temporary housing. I wouldn't permanently house a bird in there because it's just not enough room for them to get exercise or to live a happy and healthy life. And so hopefully that helps you guys out. If you have any questions, concerns, leave some comments below. I'd be absolutely more than happy to answer any of those. Share the video, get the word around, let people understand, you know, the types of cages that their birds should be in. And always remember, if you can go bigger and you can afford bigger or you can house bigger, always do that, no matter the size, if you have a finch or a macaw. So bigger is always better. So just keep that in mind. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this was of benefit to you guys. Like I said, share the video, give it a thumbs up, like it, subscribe if you guys haven't. We cover lots of things like this, cover any type of finch and how to breed them, how to house them properly, how to take care of them, and just give some general overall education on these beautiful creatures. So appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you next time.